your patience and hope that you enjoy the barbecue. Good. Well, go back and get one. My name is Bubenik, and I am the program director for Ethics in Business and Community. And we were very pleased today to have a great presentation. We feel that will better inform you of the nomination process. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who is one of last year's award recipient. Carol Schwarz is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ronald McDonald House, Charities of Central Texas, who has graciously opened her facility for us today. Carolyn? Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. It's nice to be together. I'm glad you made it through the foggy rain. My name is Carolyn Schwarz. Like Scholley said, I work here at Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central Texas. At the end of the meeting today, I'd love to be able to take whoever's interested on a tour of the facility. If you've never had a chance to see our work in action, I welcome you to stay. I'll come back up close to the end of the meeting so that we can do that. But I won't be offended if you have to rush off because I know we're on a busy work day. Well, Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central Texas was so fortunate to be a part of this process, and I think that's kind of what I was asked to speak to you a little bit about today was the process. And I know you've probably had other nomination situations where everyone will say it's really not about who wins, but then this little part of you is like, actually it really is about who wins. I can truly say, and I mean maybe I'm biased because we did win, but honestly the best part of the whole ethics in business was the process. We were thrilled and honored to win, but there were so many steps that was led up to us being a finalist and then to be chosen on that day at the AT&T Center to get up in front of everybody that made this so worth it. The process itself, well, first of all, I don't think that there's very many awards out there that's looking at how you run your business. So that's my job as a nonprofit executive. My job is to run the business of Ronald McDonald House Charities. And it's not a real sexy job, like sometimes when I'm dealing with the bank and our accountants and our audit, it's not necessarily, people want to know how I'm saving lives, which we are here. We're saving lives for sure. But the part of the work that's maybe not as sexy doesn't always get attention. And so it really was something to be asked, how transparent are you with your donors? How do you make sure everybody who's employed by you feels that their values and what they bring to the table is valued? These are hard questions that if you care about how you run your business and you care about why your employees want to stay with you, why the constituents that you help, if you're a for-profit business, maybe your customers, all those things. You get asked very tough questions that I think if you're in this room and you're thinking about a nomination, you probably have either a business or agency in mind that could answer these tough questions, and it's so worth it. So you'll hear more about the process, but we got to work with Sydnee. She was a student from Concordia University along with a team that was assigned to look at our organization and assess our organization. And man, they ask challenging questions, and you think, oh, I'm gonna, they're college age students, and then you learn that college age students are awesome and that our future looks really bright because we have some amazing students. And that's been my experience. I've been lucky enough prior to even being nominated to be on the committee that read the finalists, I don't know what selection committee. So I kind of got to see this process from all sides, and I hope that you remember this idea of it is about the process. We had to ask donors to come speak to the students. We had to have donors, board members, different people. So it wasn't just our staff. And our donors came up to us and said, thank you for letting me do that. So if your customers are the ones, they want to toot your horn if they feel good about who you are and what you're doing. And to have a donor thank me for giving them that opportunity, and I was like, thank you for going to talk to them, for giving up your time, and they thanked us for the opportunity. So, again, the process. Thank you.
So before we get started today, I wanted to ask anybody who had heard of Ethics in Business and Community Award before you were contacted about a nomination. Raise your hands. Okay, about half of you guys. So I know that many times when I call nominees and inform them, or when Joel calls them and informs them that if you've been nominated, people are like, you know. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about, just briefly give you an overview of the history of the program. The Ethics in Business and Community Award was originally started by the Samaritan Counseling Center as an event that would recognize and honor individuals, nonprofits, and businesses for their ethical practices. About 10 years into the program, RecognizeGood, which is also a nonprofit organization, adopted the program to manage the day-to-day administration of it, and has grown that event to be over 500 participants, reaching capacity of 600. Which is an amazing thing to see that many people that care about ethics in our community come together and recognize individuals. RecognizeGood, which is a nonprofit organization, was started as a way to recognize volunteers, community service organizations, and businesses that did good in the community. And that's their sole mission, not to raise money, but to recognize all of the good that's going on in our community. So they have many programs that recognize volunteers and community services, and ethics and business and community is one of those fields. Today, the purpose of our meeting is to give you a better understanding of the nomination process and what to expect from it, and how the process will flow, as well as to introduce you to some key people that are involved in the program. But I thought, what better way to illustrate what this is all about than to show you a video from last year's events, a very short video that shows you one of our past winners.
It can be as hard as you make it. You can have reams and reams of guidelines and rules and regulations on the shelf, but it's really simple if you boil it down to the individual and the individual's performance within the organization. People have to have it within their heart that they're going to do the right thing when they come in the door every day, and we're backed up by all those rules and our codes of behavior and things of that nature. But really, it's the employee that comes in the door in the morning that has the heart to do things the right way. We've got operations in 70 countries. You know, whether it be sales or administration, R&D, distribution, and we sell in 200 countries, coming up on 90,000 employees. So there's no way that you can hold your finger over every employee every day and say this is the right way to do things. They've got to understand the right way to do things. It's not an easy task, but it's certainly worthwhile, and it's something that we invest time and resources in every day. The goal at the bottom always says, and do it the right way, we're going to do it ethically. There's always a footnote at the bottom that all this wonderful results that we're going to have, we're going to do it by doing it the right way. I think the most impressive way to look at it from an organizational perspective is through our sales organization, because they are everywhere every day and on their own. And if ethical behavior isn't exhibited in the trenches every day, one-on-one with the customer, we're not going anywhere. I've been here for about 32 years, and the ethics of this company are such that I've never had to hold my head down and say, well, I work for 3M. I'm always proud when people say, where do you work? I can say 3M Company. And I love that it starts out with something as simple as be good. Be good. We're not trying to make this difficult for our employees. Be good.
So hopefully that kind of gives you an understanding of what the businesses are communicating, and a little bit about the criteria that's involved. To get further into that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Dr. Lynette Gillis is the Dean of the College of Business from Concordia University. And they are the actual ones that are responsible, her students and her department, for vetting all of the nominees. And she's going to explain the process a little bit to you.
Thank you, Scholley.
I'll do my best to have a little bit of a sore throat and losing my voice a little, so you'll get the short version, which may be good for you. One, I want to say it's a real privilege and an honor for me, and one of the main reasons that Concordia engages in this process is for the student learning side. Each year we select our students. Sydnee's one of those. We'll speak to you in a minute. We select the students who are highly motivated, highly engaged, and they want to do something different with their lives. They want to make a difference with their lives. We pick those students, and they come into a year-long program beginning in the spring, actually with the Ethics and Business Awards. We're bringing in our new students in January. Those are the students that you will be interacting with as a nominee in this process. And then in the fall, we move into a colloquium series, but in the spring, we focus on ethics and business. And so it's a year-long program for them and specifically selected students. I want to spend a little time and talk about the process before I give it over to Sydnee to talk to you about her experience with it. And there's really basically 3 phases in the process. And the first phase is this nomination phase that we're in right now. Nominations are open through December 31st, and really through the end of the year we'll be accepting those. And then you would have all received an email inviting you to this event, and then also this year for the first time asking you for a preference and time for your first interview. And that is to help us with our side. Our students, again, they come in January, and we're given the list of nominees, and we begin right away doing some research and making contact with those nominees in all of the different categories. And in doing that, sometimes we struggle with connecting times and finding the best time for you and for us and for the students. So we very much appreciate if you would recommend to us the good times that work for you and your schedules, and then we'll fit our students into that process. As you know, probably there are several categories of the award. We have 3 business categories: a small business category, which is a business with fewer than 49 employees. A mid-sized business, which is a 50 to 399 employees, and a large size, which is 400 or more. The 2 additional categories are the nonprofit category and the individual category. In the individual category, those people can come from any sector, any type of position. It doesn't have to be necessarily, in a big business, or it can be nonprofit. It can be any leader in the community that can be nominated for that particular section. Or category of the award. And the things we look for, and Carolyn mentioned some of those in the questions that come out, and I'll give you a framework for what we're looking for. We use a book that's called The Ethical Imperative, and it's a book that the award was originally based around, and it creates 5 categories of ethics. And what I like about it is sometimes I think we can be very narrow in how we define ethics. It might be that I hear a lot of do unto others as you would do unto yourself, and that's a really good, motto. Or some people might think about it as, I should serve my community, and that's another good piece of ethics, but it's not the whole thing. So the first criteria we look for is be respectful. And in that, we're looking for how does the organization, the business, the individual enhance the lives of others? How do they bring dignity to people? And so some examples of things we would look for in businesses might include safety precautions and safety protocols, a wellness program, some family-friendly policies, training and career development, career advancement opportunities that they would allow their employees to move up through and improve their life standing. And the second criteria is be fair. And then we look at organizations and individuals that practice their business with what we would call equanimity and care. It doesn't mean everything is always equal. It means that there is equity, which is, and we talk a lot in our students about what that difference is. Some examples we would look for, how are resources acquired? Is there fair acquisition of those resources? Fair pay, and we'll often look at, how are the pay practices put into place? Again, job advancement, diversity, anti-discrimination types of regulations. So we'll look at things from policies and practices to also how the business lives itself out. The third is be honest. The organization individual will operate truthfully and will value integrity as a way of doing business. With this, we're going to look at things like transparency, the question that Carolyn gave you. How transparent are you with your budgeting, with your finances, with your donors? Do they know where you spend your money? A company value statement, a lot of times is a little bit, do their values actually reflect an
honest way of doing business. And the fourth is strive for justice. This is where that social responsibility comes in, and a lot of times people will think about this as ethics. Again, it's certainly an important piece of that. But what does the business or the individual do to give back to the community, to build up the community that they're in, to serve that community? How do they balance business life with moral obligations? How do they honor the intrinsic human rights of people? We will look for, we've seen things, mentoring programs, aiding underserved populations, employee volunteer programs, employee matching programs that employees may want to give to a particular organization if they're interested in the organization, may match that. There's a variety of different ways that's lived out. The fifth is embracing sustainability. And this gets at how does the organization manage nature as an asset? How do they respect and enhance the environment and not destroy it? We look at waste management programs, recycling programs, community cleanup programs, ride-sharing programs, work-from-home programs, anything that would enhance the community. A few years ago, we had one of our winners was Texas Disposal Systems. And initially, I think they were probably concerned, well, what do people think about, we have a landfill, right? And one of the main reasons they won was in this area. They really can talk about what they do to enhance the environment through their business. And they have great stories around that. So those are 5 criteria: be respectful, be fair, be honest, strive for justice, and embrace sustainability. So I gave you some examples. If you want others, I'm glad to give you some more. That's sort of the overview. That first phase I mentioned was nomination phase. The second phase is the initial interview phase. Those are the times you're signing up for. Hopefully we'll get everybody signed up. If we don't, we will be reaching out to you early in January. So our students come back about the second week of January. That week of New Year's is off for us. And we come back right around January 8th, 9th, somewhere in that range. And right away in that first week, we'll be making contact with you about setting up that initial interview. In that interview, we'll be asking you some questions about each one of these criteria. We typically reach out to our point of contact that we're given in the nomination. And if that's not the best contact, we'd ask that you refer us to someone who is. We'll gather that data. We also will basically look at a website. We'll be looking for a mission statement, value statement, any kind of press release we can find, anything we can find online. We will also sometimes ask for, will you share a policy with us? Looking for both your policies and practices, but the stories and what the stories that bring life to your organization and to us. So you'll get an email early January, telephone interview also early January. And that phase actually takes us a little bit of time to kind of work through some of the data. We in class will have discussions on all of these criteria and what they mean, and how do we look at these organizations from a different perspective. One of the values, I think, of the students doing this is that they get to see real-life dilemmas, and real-life hard scenarios and hard choices that you as business leaders have to make every day, that may initially seem very black and white, and really they're not always. And so they get to wrestle with those as well. And the third phase then is that at that point then we'll host, in early March, we host an alumni gathering where we invite, and that's actually on our campus, and we would invite some past winners to come, and we will be announcing the finalists at that event as well. So that happens early March. We'll all be invited. And then we enter our in-depth research phase. So in in-depth research phase, this is again the phase that Carolyn was talking about. And that's where our students will come out and do a site visit at a business or nonprofit. So Sydnee got to come here. And we ask for interviews with multiple types of people. And you'll get that list. And for a business, it's generally our point of contact, potentially someone from HR, an employee, maybe someone who can represent the finance side, an executive, perhaps, and perhaps a customer, if we can get that. Our preference is to do that at one time, to set up one meeting to come, be able to do all of the interviews, in a 2-hour window, plus maybe a tour, and then be done. That doesn't work for every business because I realize that some people are traveling, it's hard to get that all coordinated, and we can come back if we need to. It tends to be far easier and less stressful for the organization if we can do it all at once. For our nonprofits in the room, we would like the executive director, Carolyn mentioned a donor, as a donor, a volunteer, and potentially a board member. And for our individuals, we ask for 2 references. So it's usually we'll do a one-on-one with the individual and then ask those 2 references. In that process, we come out for the tour, have very detailed questions, and we do take some time in doing that. We'll gather additional resources and references, and any sort of anything you can supplement us to. Of course, anything that is proprietary, we understand that there may not be everything that you can share, and we understand that as well. So, and we do use a set of tools and templates, so everyone is really getting basically the same questions and the same kind of process to try to keep it as equitable as we can. And it's very challenging, especially in some of the large organizations that they can obviously be from 400 to many thousands of employees. So it does get hard when you recognize that while there's differences in every organization, there's also some common threads that we can look for throughout them. Once the data is collected, the students spend some time writing some really detailed research reports, and they'll evaluate each nominee on those 5 criteria, recognizing both strengths and weaknesses and what they see as the greatest benefit in each particular area of the organization. And they present that then to a selection committee. The selection committee is this year going to be made up of a group from Leadership Austin. And so we are working with them. We're really excited to have them as our selection panel, so they'll be providing us. It's also an opportunity for those leaders to see the future leaders in the students, and also to hear about the businesses and what they're doing. And that will happen about mid-April. And then we host the final phase is the awards banquet that is in May. I will tell you that the students will come out for their interview, and then there will be a subsequent visit where if you're a finalist, you will be visited for a video, like the video you saw here. And those actually happen at 2 different times. They're not simultaneous, so you should be aware that those are on 2 different dates. And I know we'll be answering some questions later. And so I guess that's kind of my general overview. So think about some questions we can answer. And in summary, I just, we do end of class surveys with our students, and every year I get great comments back from them. And some have said the ethics of business experience affected my whole way of thinking about business ethics. Others have said things like, it changes their perspective on the type of companies they want to work for and what they want to look for when they go out and interview. I think they build their interviewing skills, and they build presentation skills and writing skills, but mostly it changes the way they think about how business should be done. And that for me is the greatest outcome of this program.
Great, so obviously when you saw the first video with Priya, that's a pretty large organization, but not all of the organizations and companies that we collaborate with have formal processes. So I don't want to scare you guys away on that. If you're a small nonprofit or a small business, you may not have some of these formal processes. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, that's going to hamper your ability. Just you'll be able to communicate through your stories and other things. So.
And the winner of the 13th Annual Ethics in Business and Community Individual Award goes to Patty Smith.
I'm just thinking back over things and in the thought of coming here today. There's so many times in your life a decision that you make guides you in one way or the other. And I will tell you that my parents, my father is now gone, but my mother's still alive, thankfully. I speak to my mom every day. And I listened, and they helped guide me in a lot of the decisions that I made. And all along the path, I had the advantage of moving along in my career. Why? Because I had great mentors, great friends, people that I admired and listened to, and quite frankly watched their ethical behavior, and I realized very early on, the very first time I ever became a general manager, I actually said to the individuals that hired me, I said, if you're hiring me to do what you want me to do, please don't. If you're hiring me to do what I know is right, I'm your person. And if it doesn't work out, let me go. And that was 25 years ago. So it has worked out, and I have, honestly, the people that have guided me in my life to thank for that. So I just want to kind of close with one comment. My oldest daughter, Aubrey, had brought to me a Christian singer by the name of Sarah Groves. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with her, but I love her songs, her writing. And there's a phrase in there that I always think about, and the phrase in one of her songs is, remind me of this. With every decision I make, generations will reap what I sow. I can pass on a curse or a blessing to those I may never know. So my prayer is that I pass on a blessing, and I thank all those who passed on their blessing to me. Thank you very much for the support.
I can pass on a curse or a blessing to those I will never know.
So Patty Smith just paid news, and she was a general manager. She was nominated for individual. Really inspired. People leave the event very inspired and uplifted. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Sydnee Allison, who you've already heard a little bit about, was part of this program. Was it last year, Sydnee?
Yes.
Okay, so from a student's perspective, this is probably one of the neatest things about the program, is that it's bringing the community together and young people like us.
Honestly, best experience. One of the best experiences I've had at Concordia, and I speak for every single one of us because we talked every single week. We have class every single week, and we discuss everything you tell us. Everything that you tell us in interviews, we think about and we take home with us and we mull over. And it is amazing the impact that you give us. And I know that at the end of the day, it's about honoring all of what you've done. But exactly what was said in the speech, you're passing that stuff on to us. Those things that we're learning, we're going to take and we're going to use in our future. One of the things I love about Concordia is that our institution is small, so we don't run necessarily like a typical university. When I go into classes, I am expected to, of course, read and listen to lectures and that sort of thing, but then we have open dialogues constantly. We're taught these things, but then we're talking about it, and we're working through it, and we're understanding it. We have to verbalize it, so we don't just have to know it, we have to verbalize it. And then in the majority of our classes, after we do all that, we're expected to apply it. You know, in marketing classes, we're given real life marketing opportunities. That's what this class does. Concordia is so based upon this ethics, and it's something that is instilled in us as freshmen, and you hear this developing Christian leaders. You hear it all the time, and you feel like you will never forget it because it's ingrained. But it's a whole different story to be sitting in a classroom and hearing, you can be ethical, you can do this for your community, you can do this for your customers and your employees. But then when you get to go sit down with all of these nominees and see it really like in real life practice, it totally changes your entire perspective. Because it's not just ideas anymore, and it's not just maybes, it's real. And to see that it can happen makes you not only want to continue those processes, it makes you that you want to, like she said, I want to work for a company that thinks like that. And if they don't, I want to work for a company that's accepting of me trying to promote those ideas, or opening my own business where I can instill those types of things in the community around me, wherever that may be. So, you know, we do get to hone our interview skills. We get to speak with y'all. We get to write giant reports. Giants. Because we want to make sure that we care about y'all more than you would ever know. We go back and we're like, guess what my company did? Guess what they do for their employees? Guess what they do for their community? Guess what they do for their customers? And it blows us away because they're like, they do that? That's real. And it's not just, like they spoke about, it's not just policies, it's the stories. Those are what gets you. It's understanding the real life practices. You can write all day long in a book that you're going to do this, but if you have the stories to show us how you've implemented and how it affected it, like at Ronald McDonald House, seeing the donors, why do you give back? Why do you care to give back? What do they do that makes you want to give your money? That's the stuff that just totally solidifies everything that we're told. So honestly, you give us much more than we could ever give y'all, and I feel so blessed and privileged to have been able to be through this entire process because I've learned so many things, not just those interview skills and those reports. I learned about how I can impact my community because y'all have impacted my life because of it. So.
I probably failed to say this when we first started, but just to be nominated is a huge honor. So congratulations that someone in this community thought enough about your organization or you as an individual to nominate you for this. And as Sydnee said, to read their reports and to listen to the information that they've collected, it's phenomenal that Austin, the greater Austin area, has this many wonderful businesses and individuals caring about the community. And I think you're going to find that when I started working with the program, it was a one-time event, and through many of the people in this room have continued to help build the momentum. It's more of a movement. People know about ethics in business and community. They want to engage with Concordia and the students there. And so that kind of leads me into the next introduction. We are super honored to expand the movement to include Leadership Austin. And we've got the honor of Christopher Kennedy, who's the Chief Executive Officer for Leadership Austin, and he's going to talk about their involvement this year with the program. So Christopher.
We're really honored to be part of this year. We've been watching these guys for a long time. They've just been so respectful of what they're delivering. For us at Leadership Austin, it's pretty simple. We try to bring together the business, the nonprofit, and the civic leaders in the community. Right now, on the top 25 employers, 86% have got a Leadership Austin graduate at their executive level. Of the nonprofits, 96% do. And of the 70 elected officials, as of right now, we'll see what happens tomorrow night, 43% have come through our program. So we feel we got all three of those legs covered. Two core principles of ours really mirror some of this. One is that we ask our folks to go back and work within their systems. Work within your business, work within your nonprofit, work wherever you work to make those differences we all want. And what a model this program does to lift that up. The second thing we talk a lot about is the personal responsibility that you have to take care of it for yourselves. So we're selfishly bringing some of those contents forward to the final selection process. On our side, as Ms. Allison clearly articulated, we're thinking there's some curriculum changes that we'll make on our side. Coming through all this exercise, seeing the people nominated, seeing the people selected, we'll be pulling some of this content back into some of the programs we deliver. We're also very interested, as Dr. Gillis outlined, to make sure that we're partnering with Concordia University. We think it's a big deal. We think the importance of that relationship with that university is going to really be a huge anchor for us. So we're really honored. Thank you all for asking us to be part of it. We're looking forward to it in the spring.
All right, so enough of talking on our end. We'd like to open it up for any questions that you have about the program, the process. Dr. Gillis and I tend to answer anything. Any questions? What are your questions?
The basic one is, you receive nominations from the community. Is this just anybody in the community, and do you all solicit those? And how do you solicit the nominations? I'm just curious. I don't know where they come from.
Sure. They come from a variety. Last year, we got a huge influx at the actual award event. So we had a way for people to text in nominees right there. If you go to RecognizeGood.org, the website, you can go to the Ethics in Business and Community. People nominate online. Many of us speak at community events. We take nomination cards. And I would say in the past, we had, our nomination committee would go out and elicit nominations, but we don't really, because a lot of people didn't know about the program. But really, we're not having to do that anymore because it's becoming a lot
Word is
more.
out now. Good.
Right. But the nomination committee does oversee that we have a good distribution of nominees. So if we don't have enough, mid-sized businesses, then we may go out and call on some of our community people to recommend. Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Yes.
We were nominated as a nonprofit. Is there anything else that we need to do at this point?
Well, if you accepted your nomination, selected, not sure?
Not sure.
Okay. Well, what organization are you with?
It's with Austin Freenet.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Joel is the keeper of that information, so we'll be pinging back to you if you have probably. So the next step would be to select your interview preference and so that we can get that. And that would be in January. But I would just say, is there? I mean, I don't know. Is there anything other than starting to collect their stories and be thinking about
You can
these
start thinking
things?
about,
Sometimes with some awards, they want more than one nomination for the award, or for a particular category, for that particular organization. So
No, just one. One is
so that's good to know.
Other questions?
Is there a award per category? So I'm not competing with IBM?
Is there what?
Is there a award per category?
Yes. So there is, there will be 5 awards. It'll be given nonprofit, individual, small, medium, and large business.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the principle of embracing sustainability? And you were talking about recycling and that type of stuff, but are there other dimensions to the...
Sure, and this is where we're largely looking at environmental impact and long-term sustainability of the organization. Not in terms of financially, are you sustainable, as more of what are your business practices that lead to a sustainable business. So some of that may be in where do we spend our resources, but also how do we improve specifically the environmental side of the world that we live in. Again, it's going to come in a wide variety of things that organizations can do. Some will have the large businesses will tend to have very extensive programs. And the hard part about that is sometimes what we hear is, we've got this program in place and here's our documentation, and this program in place and here's our documentation, and the small business says, well, I've got this employee right here and he started a community project and we supported that and all our employees came out and they have this great story around it. So that happens as well. And maybe it's, Concordia, at Concordia, I know this is a little example of something we do, above every light switch we have a posting, and last year we spent this much more electricity, turning the lights off. The small things, do we think about that? Are we thinking about how we improve the environment, how we build a sustainable environment around us?
I need one of those signs for my house.
I know, for my kids, right?
I just wanted to say one thing. I've gone to several. Has anybody gone to the event in the springtime? I've gone to several of them, and they're truly inspiring and motivating. So if you get a chance, even if you don't go through this process, I would certainly go to one of those. Speeches are amazing. Patty's was amazing. Do you know how her health is? Was she the one that said she had?
No, it was Lori Lowe.
Okay.
They got the. So what we also do is at the award we give a lifetime achievement, and this goes to an individual that's won it. Either their business has won it, or they have individually. And Lori Lowe has given really where she started at, where she gives a certain percentage. But she is doing much better.
Awesome.
And I've seen her speak several times since then. So she's made.
She was at one of the last events.
Yes.
On the panel.
Yes. We had a community forum on connecting the business forum with the nonprofit, and yeah, she did great. So thank you for asking. Yes, sir.
If our CEO is part of the leadership Austin, would that be considered a conflict of interest in that?
At this point, I think that decision would be made at the point of getting to the finalist component part. I don't think that should limit anybody from applying. We do think at some point we're going to come up with some guidelines we'd like to work with the university on what that should or should not be. Again, in our selection process for our classes, that is confidential, and you know, we're used to this confidential approach of running through those as an organization. So at this point, the answer would be no, but it could be something in the future if there's a conflict of interest.
So it's, I mean, given that it's called ethics in business, you know, I wouldn't want to accept a nomination that would be seen
As a conflict.
As a conflict.
Absolutely. And I think I spoke to someone in the organization last week and told them we would address this.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's always something. I know that Recognize Good is not part of the selection process at all, because we have distanced ourselves, and that is not our role. Our role is to elicit nominations and to put on the award. So, and Leadership Austin is new. So defining some guidelines around that is going to be important. And so it's something that we will address.
And the one thing I would add to that is, and the event is great, Scholley does a great event, but most of the initial phase of the selection process is owned by Concordia. And so even Leadership Austin won't be a part of that initial selection to the finalists. The students will be the ones who really vet those and go through that. And that's why that initial process, it actually takes a long time to do your interview, but it takes us a couple of months to really work through and wrestle with the different elements of ethics and what are these businesses doing, and do our own kind of background, look at them and reflect upon it. And then the finalists will be actually selected by the students. I don't vote in it either. And so once it hits the finalist level and goes to Leadership Austin for a vote, again, the students will be presenting. They're going to present both sides of every company. The selection panel will vote, but it will be by secret ballot. And in my experience in sitting through those, they're very, again, we haven't worked with Leadership Austin, but I know that their leadership over there and their ethical standing would, they're very open. I've never seen them be on both sides of every, issue and talk through them and not be biased in any way.
Well, and if I may add, I know while we were giving those presentations, like we do these huge reports and they read them, but we also present them as well, like Professor Deagle, said, but we also get asked a lot of questions. In fact, we had time, that took a long time because they asked us so many questions. What about this? Can you clarify this? Because they really wanted to know. So I feel like that's just going to continue to, we collect as much as we can, and we really focus on trying to just show it at the most, unbiased. This is what we were told. This is what we have to back it up. These are the procedures. These are the stories. Here you go. So we do a lot of that, and they ask a lot of questions. So they care about it when they're selecting before they cast that vote.
And from my experience, the nominees are all outstanding typically by the time, especially when we get down to those finalists. And I always tell the students, you can't tell them, well, I really, I think you should vote for this one, because with the way we assign it, we'll have a research team with one lead researcher. And each lead researcher would say, I think you need to pick this one, because they fall in love with their companies. And so I don't allow them to say that. They present as objectively as they can. I also encourage the selection panel to challenge them. And that's part of their learning experience too. So push them to think hard, push them for details, give them some feedback.
So typically there are 3 finalists for each category. So when we go into the event, there'll be 15. So 3 per individual, 1 separate. That's pretty standard. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Anything else? So next steps, if you haven't already accepted the nomination, go to Recognize Good and send an email, please. Dig it up out of your junk email, send it again, and try to go ahead and get on the calendar. Now, I think we kind of have had an influx of everybody wanting the first interview schedule, so try to pick maybe the third or fourth choice, so that we can kind of stagger these out. And then just go back and think about the stories that you have to offer. Any, of course, policies or procedures, or, they have a lot of things on your website, press, so forth, that you can use as well. I know Carolyn was going to come back up and do her a tour, so I want to encourage you guys to enjoy a little more food, mingle among yourselves if you'd like to take a tour. It's a wonderful facility. If you have not been through a tour here, it's phenomenal to see it. So I encourage you to do that. Thank you again, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the spring.
And I have this.